Alrighty, so now we're gonna do the season preview of the LA team, which is LA Galaxy. So obviously for the Galaxy, once again, expectation is gonna be high heading into this year, and that at least one of the positive thing about the Galaxy heading into this upcoming season, no off-field distraction. Unlike what we saw last offseason coming into the year, where that was the distraction between the whole supporter group and then one Chris Klein to be stepping down as the president of the team, or even getting fired as the president of this team, and that kind of gone on for just so long to a point where it really affected the on-field product. And it's also to no big surprise that once the Galaxy finally did the right thing and decided to remove Chris Klein as the president of the Galaxy, the team started playing much better to a point where they could have definitely made it to the playoffs if they didn't had such a terrible start to the beginning of the season. That being said, though, as I said, there's a lot of expectation heading into this season because when you look at this team definitely has a caliber to not only make it to the playoffs, but should be a team that should make a deep playoff run and bring back the glory days that the Galaxy have been missing for a very long time now. I mean, it's been almost a decade since they last won an MLS Cup, and throughout that decade long, it's been ongoing struggle to a point where this is really the worst period that the Galaxy has ever suffered in their time in MLS since coming into the league and being one of the original 10 teams to come into the league in 1996. Now, in terms of last season, they finished with an 8-12-14 record and finished with 36 points. Their last playoff appearance was 2022. And their last playoff round win was also that year. They beat Nashville SC to move on into the second round, but unfortunately, it was pretty much deja vu like what we saw in 2019 when they met their crosstown rival LAFC in an El Trafico second round match in the Western Conference, and they lost that one. Now, in terms of MLS Cup, so the Galaxy, they will always proudly tell everybody that they're still the only team to win 5 MLS Cup in league history, winning one in 2002, 2005, 2011, 2012, and 2014. And they also are going to be one that is still loudly gonna say that they're still the last team to repeat as MLS Cup champion, as we saw in 2011 and 2012. I mean, their crosstown rival came close last year of repeating, but to this day, the Galaxy is still the last team to repeat as champion, and we have not seen a back-to-back champion for now 13 straight season. Now, when you look at some of the signings that they have, so obviously the biggest signing that they got was Gabriel Peck. This was a signing that they've been long overdue of getting. I mean, this is a guy that they've been linked with pretty much throughout the whole off season, and there was definitely question whether or not if they can get over the line, and that I feel like this signing is very similar to the Pedro de la Vega situation that we saw with the Seattle Sounders, and I'll definitely mention that when I do get to talk about the season preview of the Sounders, where it's been linked with all off season, and it's just getting to a point of the fact that is it really going to happen? Are they actually going to get that deal done? And thankfully, they were able to get that deal done not long ago, and now he's officially a Galaxy player and a designated player as well. They also bought in a couple of low-key signing, bringing John Nelson from St. Louis City, bringing John McCarthy from LAFC. So yeah, it feels like John McCarthy is following the Raheem Edwards. Reed decided to jump to the crosstown rival and join the Galaxy in this one. Then you got Miki Yameni, the new Japanese fullbacks for this LA Galaxy team. Then they also got Michael Barrios, who of course they got him from the Colorado Rapids, and then they got some depth in the attack by bringing Miguel Berry from Atlanta United. And something tells me this could be the last chance for Miguel Berry if he wants to stay relevant in this league. I mean, ever since his incredible season he has with the Columbus Crew, he has been a huge let down. And that was kind of the same case with him joining Atlanta United. Didn't really do much to a point where it's kind of a little surprised that he still got a chance in terms of joining another MLS team. But like I said, this has got to be his last chance to impress if he is going to stay relevant in this league. Now, in terms of some of the transfer that they let go of, oh, I just realized that remember I said that they of course signed Michael Barrios. They actually let sign him during last off season. So technically, this shouldn't be a transfer that happened um, in the off season. It actually happened in the summer, and obviously he's no longer with this team. But the other player that's no longer with this team, Efren Alvarez, he's been with the Galaxy of what seems like for forever, but he has finally moved on from this team, going to Liga MX. And then Tyler Boyd going to Nashville SC this offseason, part of a big trade that we saw that was upwards almost a million general allocation money the Galaxy was able to receive from Nashville SC. Then you got Raheem Edwards moving on from this team, Preston Judd going north to the San Jose Earthquakes, and then Chicharito going back to Chivas just not long ago, before they also, as I mentioned, let go of Michael Barrios, Tony Alfaro, Billy Sharp going back to England, Jonathan Kinsman going to Italy, and then in terms of a couple of free agent right now and guys that they declined their contract, Douglas Costa, at Adam Saldana, Calvin Leerdam, and Novak Mikovic. Now, in terms of their preseason, they've been very busy in terms of their preseason. In fact, they're exactly halfway in terms of their preseason right now. They got a 1-1 draw against the Quakes on January 27th before getting a 2-1 loss against St. Louis City. And then in their first of 4 games that's going to be happening in the Coachella Valley Invitational. Obviously, they play the most game because they are the host in terms of this preseason tournament. Didn't got off to a good start for the Galaxy. They lost 3-0 to Charlotte before they're going to play against Austin, NYCFC, and the New York Red Bulls as the remaining team in this Coachella Valley Invitational, and also their remaining team that they'll be played before they begin their first game of the season on February 25th, and what a game it would be. In fact, their first 2 games is going to be some marquee kind of game that they're going to be playing, because the first one they're going to be playing Messi and Fran, and this is going to be the first team that we're going to see Lionel Messi and his friends going to be playing this season against the Galaxy, and this is kind of similar to what we saw a couple years ago when this was also a marquee matchup. It feels like whenever Inter Miami have a marquee matchup to begin the season, always against the LA Galaxy, and we're going to see it once again. Don't be surprised. Technically, have Sports Park. It's going to be completely packed, and maybe a lot of pink jerseys. That's going to be in the crowd for that one. But after that, they got another big matchup against the San Jose Earthquakes in the Cali Clasico. In fact, in terms of the Cali Clasico, that is going to be all done by the time when the Stanford game is going to take place in July. They're going to be playing against each other very soon in the early part of the season. But after the Cali Clasico and the home opener for the Quakes, they play against Nashville FC on the road before going back at home to play against St. Louis City. Then they go on the road to play against Sporting KC before playing against the Seattle Sounders at home. And then they get the El Tráfico between them and LAFC, as I mentioned in the last season preview of LAFC. Then they go on the road to play against the Vancouver Whitecaps before playing at home against the San Jose Earthquakes. And then they go on the road to play against Austin FC to finish their first 10 game of the schedule. And when I look at the schedule, yeah, that's not an easy schedule for the Galaxy, and it is very important for this Galaxy to get off to a strong start, because for the past football season we have seen them tends to you kind of have a tendency of just playing good half of the season, whether it's like in the beginning of the season before they absolutely collapse in the second half of the season, or what we saw last year, where it was kind of the reverse, where they play much better as the season goes along. And again, part of that has to do with finally getting that distraction out of the way and seeing the firing of Chris Klein that was long overdue and demanding from the fans and the supporter group. But again, this is a team that needs to have a strong season, and and especially coming out of the gate. And this is also where, when I do that head coach index, or at least hot seat index, in terms of looking at where each head coach is in terms of the hot seat heading into the season, Greg Vanney is going to be right up there in terms of being on the hot seat, especially with the new regime coming in, with Will Kuntz now being the new sporting director of this team. He's not going to have a lot of patience to see if this team doesn't do well. Greg Vanney could be end up on the chopping block. Now, when you look at the post Leeds Cup, they've play at home against Atlanta United for their first game post Leeds Cup. Then they go on the road to play against St. Louis City before they're going to be playing the final El Tráfico at home against LAFC. Then they play against the Portland Timbers on the road, Vancouver at home after that. Then they go on the road to play against the Colorado Rapids, play against Austin FC on October 5th. And then in terms of their decision day game, and look away, Galaxy fans, guess who they gets to play in their decision day game? I mean, I swear, this feels like it's scripted with the way that it has to be every single season that the LA Galaxy has to play against the Houston Dynamo on decision day. I mean, it just like it feels like this feels like almost every year that of course is the case, and I'm pretty sure Galaxy fans are maybe getting tired of seeing that team, and I guarantee you that they better hope that they wrapped up their playoff spot before heading into that final game on the road to play against the Houston Dynamo, because that is literally the team that has caused them the most pain in terms of decision day for the past couple of years, and that it could be the same thing again if they do play against that team. And that again, I'm not making this up when when I look at the schedule that they're playing against the Houston Dynamo again. It just feels like it's every single season. Though that wasn't the case last year, because I know last year it was the Portland Timbers that play against the Houston Dynamo, and the Dynamo is also known for a team to inflict some playoff spoiler, and they definitely did it to the Portland Timbers last season, and the Galaxy are hoping that that's not going to be the same case heading into this year as well. Now, looking at the strength of this team, going to be the midfield, and it's always been the midfield of this team. I mean, the good news for this team that they also missed last year is that they battled a lot of injuries last season as well, especially in the midfield where their midfield was kind of wiped out. They lost Mark Delgado and Gaston Brugman for a very long time. Fortunate for them, they're going to get both of them back heading into this season. And then let's also not to mention about Ricky Puig. I mean, what else you have to say about Ricky Puig? He is a guy that is such a dynamic player, and that it's also a question to see what's going to happen after this season in terms of Pooch future, because there's been talks of him potentially going back to Europe, and rightfully so, because Ricky Pooch, when he came to the Galaxy, he always was a guy that says that he has his vision of going back to Europe as soon as possible, and there could be a case that we could see him sold off back to Europe if he has another great season. But in terms of the weakness of this team, I mean, it's obviously the goalkeeping and defense. I mean, you probably knew that was coming when I talk about the Galaxy in this season preview. The defense has always been a problem. Though again, I feel like last year that was probably the best that they've started to to fix, and especially when you look at the back line, I do like the back line that they currently have, and at least last year there were times where it looks like that back line has stabilized. But that being said, that's always going to be a question with this team. And goalkeeping is definitely an issue with this team as well, because there is a question of, is it going to be Jonathan Bond starting in that spot, or is it going to be John McCarthy starting that spot? I mean, both of those guys are guys that is kind of very similar, where I don't think they're considered to be an MLS caliber goalkeeper. I mean, Jonathan Bond had a really disastrous season last year. But the same goes for John McCarthy. I mean, eventually when Maxime Crepeau came back, he, doing his short time with LAFC, he didn't really recapture that magic that he had in MLS Cup 2022. Definitely had some leaky moments, and when you have a back line that is leaky at time, and a goalkeeper that is not very good in terms of the bailing the back line out, something tells me that this team is going to give up a lot of goals, and that's been the problem for the Galaxy pretty much for almost half a decade or even more now, and I feel like it's going to be the problem once again, and could potentially be their downfall once again if they maybe not address that in the summer transfer window. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're not going to address it this season or in the off season, but if things goes bad again, they're gonna have to once again address that. And also, not to mention, another thing that they might have to address is the third DP spot, and especially the depth up front. There is definitely question in terms of depth up front, especially that left winger position. I mean, right now it looks like Diego Fagundes is that lone left winger, but there's been question that they might bring another left winger in there, and not to mention, there's even a lot of rumors that they are going to bring in another number nine, knowing that they kind of don't really trust that Dejan Joveljic is going to be that guy that is gonna carry them through. And I kind of don't blame him, considering Joveljic, he had his moments to shine in terms of playing in the starting 11 when Chicharito was injured throughout the season, and he was kind of a little bit mediocre, and it's kind of getting to a point where I feel like Joveljic is more of a guy that fits well coming off the bench rather than a guy that's starter. And we see that happen before, where sometimes guys perform better when they come off the bench than when they starting from the beginning. And again, Joveljic seems like that's kind of the player he is, even though he admits that he doesn't want to come off the bench and make a big impact and act in terms of the super sub role. But in terms of expectation, obviously it's got to be playoffs. I mean, this team had to get themselves back into the playoffs. And when you look at the Galaxy and when you look at how it feels like it's the odd year that they always tends to miss out on the playoffs. I mean, they made the playoffs in 2022, missed out in 2023. They missed out on 2021 as well. So if you look according to that theory, they should be able to make it back to the playoffs. But we'll see whether that is the case. And I think even making back to the playoffs might not be enough in terms of reaching the expectation. They need to go on a deep run, and especially with this squad being as talented as it is, you expect that there's high expectation of this team going on a deep run. Because if that is not the case, you better believe that Greg Vanney is in serious trouble in terms of his job. Like if he does not get this team into the playoffs or maybe even make a deep playoff run, or worse, if this team underachieve as what we have seen before for the past couple of years, his job could be in serious jeopardy before the season even ends. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the LA Galaxy in their season preview. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Galaxy fan, what do you think is the strength, the weakness, and expectation heading into this season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.